Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Here.
Bekavich. Here. Verhaelen. Here. Tillman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here. Bridget, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bridget. Item 3 is the approval of minutes of January 19th, 2016.
Bukavich will make a motion to approve the minutes of 1/19/16.
And roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen. Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Under recognition, item 4 is a council proclamation number 16-01. It's a recognition of Joseph J. Pulvermacher for his service to the Oak Creek Fire Department. City Clerk will read that proclamation.
Council Proclamation Number 16-01, recognition to Joseph J. Pulvermacher for his service. Whereas Joseph J. Pulvermacher will be resigning after 22 years and 3 months of dedicated service to the Oak Creek Fire Department. And whereas Joseph became a member of the Oak Creek Fire Department on November 1st, 1993, promoted to lieutenant on June 15th, 2000, promoted to commander on July 1st, 2002, changed ranks to captain on November 5th, 2003, promoted to battalion chief of operations on January 17th, 2008, and later transitioned to the position of battalion chief of training on February 9th, 2009. And whereas Joseph has been a valued member of the Oak Creek Fire Department, has provided emergency medical service in a caring and professional manner to the residents of Oak Creek. And whereas Joseph performed as a skilled firefighter in all types of situations, from training, support roles, and being the incident commander at fires and other emergency scenes. And whereas Joseph has taken a leadership role in the training of our department, participating in the TEMS, Tactical EMS, and RTF, active shooter protocols, grant writing, and emergency scenes. And whereas Joseph consistently performs work over and above the requirements of his position, and has also served our community in many volunteer aspects, from honor guard flight representative to singing the national anthem at many local and regional events. And whereas Joseph was commended for his role at the Sikh Temple event on August 5th, 2012, serving in his TEMS capacity and chief officer role. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Common Council of the City of Oak Creek for and on behalf of the citizens of the City of Oak Creek, that sincere gratitude and appreciation be extended to Joseph J. Pulvermacher for his service to the City of Oak Creek and the Fire Department, and wish him well as he begins his new career as Fire Chief for the City of Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Be it further resolved that the council proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that the city clerk is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Joseph J. Pulvermacher, dated the 2nd day of February, 2016.
And the Fire Chief Rosendich is here to make a few words, say a few words.
First off, with everything that Catherine read, we double explain what he did. Joe was a 24/7-hour guy in the operation. That whether there was a fire at 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, he was always there. But one rumor we want to dispel is he did not leave because he lost a sing-off in the national anthem to one of the new guys. So that rumor was floating out.
Is there a new guy?
Yes,
Oh, good.
we might have one.
Nice.
Yeah, we heard that he won a karaoke contest at Boots. So,
All right, we'll see.
so we're working on him as but he's still in his probationary period. So, one thing I do want to expand on, and Joel, that's he did for many years, and I don't know if he's going to do it up in Madison, Dane County. Was always on Christmas Eve. He was at Children's Hospital delivering dinners to the families that had to stay with their kids at the hospital. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that Joe did that doesn't come out. Just back to the active shooter things of helping the school districts, and we've been working, I know Bridget, with amount of dollars with the school district of getting all the first aid kits in every single classroom. And it's still a working project. We're filling the gaps slowly that Joe has left as a void, and we'll get there. But yeah, we'll miss him, and yeah, he did pay a visit to us, and he you could see the look on his face that it changes when you're the chief. So in time, he'll get as gray as I am. So
No, we wish him well. I was some of us had the pleasure of attending his going away party at the community center, and he'll be missed. He's a great trainer, great employee. and he obviously understood the other part of it, which is being involved in the community, so.
Yeah. And I think he, he believes in the fire department family and in the whole community thing, so he'll do well up there.
Yeah, we wish him well. Motion on 4. Thank you, Chief.
Gail move to approve Council Proclamation 16-01, recognition to Joseph J. Pulvermacher for his service to the Oak Creek Fire Department.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale. Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Under public hearings, item 5 is a rezone request by Drexel Partners LLC to rezone the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue from N1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a restaurant with drive-through facility in the first district. City clerk will read the public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 1 is to consider a request by Drexel Partners LLC to rezone the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue from M1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a restaurant with drive-through facility. Applicant is Drexel Partners LLC. Property owner is Langtrow Real Estate LLC. There follows the legal description. Date of notice is January 7th, 2016.
Doug?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Doug Seymour. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Oak Creek. And this is a public hearing and a request by Drexel Partners LLC to rezone the property at 6th and Drexel, 600 West Drexel Avenue, from M1 Manufacturing to B2, which is community business, also with a conditional use permit that would allow for a restaurant with a drive-through facility. At their December meeting, the Plan Commission reviewed this request, and they have recommended to the council that the property be rezoned to B2 community business, again, with a conditional use for the drive-through facility. The applicant is proposing, and you can see the location on the northwest corner of 6th and Drexel. What the applicant is proposing is a 4,300 square foot, 2-tenant commercial building. One of the tenants would be a restaurant with a drive-through. The second tenant, I don't know if it's publicly named, but I think that there'd be another type of commercial use. According to the comprehensive plan, and this whole North Branch Industrial Park is shown as planned industrial. However, this corner, which is adjacent to Drexel Town Square and the Drexel Town Square Mixed Use Plan Development District, is not of sufficient size to allow for manufacturing development consistent with our zoning standards and our comprehensive plan. And in fact, when the comprehensive plan is updated, is currently being updated right now, that likely will change to a different designation. So as kind of an ode to that, the staff is looking to move forward with this as a rezoning, recognizing that the comprehensive plan is in the process of being updated to make that change. The proposal itself, and I believe the applicant is here, can go through this a little bit, proposes the hours of operation to be 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays. Weekends. And the details of development would be brought forward again as the site and building plans are approved by the Plan Commission and reviewed by the Plan Commission. The second tenant actually is proposed as a physical therapy office. Now, parking requirements indicate that medical, dental, and similar professional health service offices are 5 patron spaces per doctor, plus 1 space per employee during the shift with the most employees. Go to the parking requirements for drive-through restaurants. They must provide 1 stall for 50 square feet of gross dining area, plus 1 stall per employee during the maximum shift. There are 32 parking stalls being proposed for the current site plan. The Plan Commission has determined that this would be sufficient for the types of businesses and their peak hours. As with any conditional use permit request, a set of conditions and restrictions is prepared and recommended for approval by the Plan Commission. They have recommended approval of that set of conditions and restrictions. So the Plan Commission, again, is recommending that this property does get rezoned from M1 Manufacturing to B2, and that the conditional use be granted for a restaurant with a drive-through facility. This is a public hearing. Anyone has any questions or comments, please fill out a comment form, a request to appear form. I'll present that to the city clerk, and mayor will call 3 times for the public hearing. It's now open.
Public hearing is open. This is first call, Mr. Arden Degner. Welcome.
Gentlemen,
Mr. Degner,
I've seen this,
Mr. Degner, could you pull the microphone down?
Usually my voice is loud enough. My wife keeps telling me not to holler. But I have a question about this plan that's on the board there. I don't see sidewalks. And to me, this is asking for problems when people cannot access these businesses without going on the road. Well, I'm talking later about this other proposal to talk about traffic on Drexel Avenue. Well, shouldn't we consider people? Shouldn't we have, I thought was in our ordinances that we would have sidewalks on these proposals. I would strongly suggest that they be added here along with all the other improvements on Drexel Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Degner. Second call for public comment on item 5. Third and final call for public comment on item 5, which is the discussion about the rezone request for the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue. Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and move to item 6, which is the discussion of ordinance number 2790 to approve the rezoning, that would approve the rezoning the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue from M1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a restaurant with drive-through facility in the first district. Doug, did you have some comments you wanted to make?
Oh, just with respect to Mr. Degner's comments regarding the sidewalk, recognize that this is a rezoning conditional use. The Plan Commission must also review the site and building plans for that. And it's, when you're talking about sidewalks, typically I concur with Mr. Degner with respect to the provision of sidewalks. I mean, we have to do it where it makes sense. And on Drexel Avenue, as you know, we are looking at some longer-term improvements, which would probably have a more significant sidewalk project there. So, I mean, it's just a matter of timing and making sure that we get the right project, the right product done there, and not just have it done piecemeal.
And if I remember right, there's a sidewalk on the south side of Drexel currently, and there's a crosswalk leading to that property right now. And I imagine a lot of the traffic from Drexel Town Square will find their way to that site. Alderman comments? Alderman Bekavich?
Just to bring you up as part of what went on at planning with this particular project, the talk really kind of focused on the number of parking stalls. Again, no single business was stated out, but based on the anticipated business that we were envisioning with the drive-through, we did not expect a lot of sit-down traffic, a lot of sit-down customers within there. And then again, based on the complementary business of the tenant space, planning was pretty comfortable with the parking spaces available on that given lot. The one comment I really made really goes to Mr. Degner's point of traffic on Drexel Avenue. We really need to take a hard look at the entryway in and out of this property, particularly on Drexel Avenue, not so much on 6th Street, but we should get a traffic impact analysis as to what's going to happen at that intersection. Possibly maybe have a no turn right into it off of Drexel, maybe only out onto Drexel versus getting on after that intersection, the only way in on 6th. But we were happy with the drive-through, the way it was routed through compared to past projects we've had with drive-throughs. So, planning all in all was pretty comfortable with the plan all the way around. I supported it. So, had my support there, it'll have my support here. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other comments from the Alderman Gale?
Doug, just kind of operationally in-house, the comp plan change, that kind of just goes along with the planning commission kind of process? Or how does that typically flow?
Yeah, and we've been trying to wrap that up for some time, and we've got a few other projects that have kind of popped up, but yeah, there'll be a series of workshops, and the Plan Commission is going to be more heavily involved in the preparation of the update to the comprehensive plan, ultimately culminating in a public hearing before the commission, I believe, and then recommendation to the Common Council.
I mean, mechanically, I mean, I mean, the risk of that is fairly small. Does the developer have an issue of proceeding with a plan without a comp plan change in place or not?
I think that the zoning, and the zoning that's there right now, M1 manufacturing, it is a non-conforming lot. I mean, you could not develop it under the M1 zoning code there. So I think staff is taking a little more pragmatic approach with respect to the redevelopment of that parcel and the pending changes to the comprehensive plan, and recognizing that that's going to be happening soon, we felt it was appropriate to proceed with it.
So we're assuming the process catches up.
Any other comments?
I got a question.
Alderman Verhaelen?
In the initial presentation of this a couple weeks ago or a month or so ago, there was mention that they perhaps were going to purchase some of that outlying property from the city of Oak Creek. Did anything ever come of that, or did they decide against it because they didn't need it after all, or?
At this point, it's my understanding that they're not proceeding with that, but I believe the applicant is here who may be able to address that.
Would you like to address that? You got to come up to the mic. And name and address for the record. This one right here. If you have information, and if you don't have to address it.
Jason Luther, 7116 West Wells, Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. At this point, from what we worked through kind of a pragmatic leasing strategy for the project, worked with Doug to talk about the additional land that would be available, and ultimately it was challenging for us to pull together a 3-tenant building here. We had 2 tenants that were ready to step up, move forward with that, rather than take a long, lengthy process potentially to add some city land that would bring some unknowns with leasing.
Are you making the tenant's name public?
Not at this point.
Thought I'd ask.
One more comment. The only reason I asked the question is, being that there may be some reconfiguration of that, the ins and outs of that property when Drexel's reconfigured or whatever we happen to do at that intersection, it may be something that should be looked at proactively, because it'll give them enough room to possibly move some of their driveways around if they have more room moving up to the Drexel side there. Just something I threw in there, you know.
It's possible, sure.
Yeah.
You mean the expansion of the intersection?
Right. You know, that way, because we have a situation like this, Steve, and I imagine you're well aware, and the rest of the council as well. The office building that's on the northwest corner of Rawson and 13th Street as well, their exit is really close to the corner, and that thing's really a hazard when people come in and out of that lot. And I would hate to have something similar happen to this gentleman here after the fact, you know, because somebody wasn't looking at what could happen now, you know.
Just so you're aware of that.
And one of the items later on this evening's agenda deals with the traffic study for the entire Drexel corridor.
Right.
That will certainly be looked at as part of that study.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion.
Kirkowski will make a motion that the council adopt ordinance number 2790, approving the rezoning of the property at 600 West Drexel Avenue from M1 Manufacturing to B2 Community Business with a conditional use for a restaurant with drive-through facility.
Kavich will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
All right, moving on to new business. Item 7 is a motion to authorize staff to investigate cooperative environmental and health services review with neighborhood communities. City Administrator Jerry Peterson.
I'll start with this, and then Judy may have some comments, and we also have some guests from South Milwaukee here too that could address questions on how this currently operates for 3 communities that are participating in joint environmental services agreement. So as the council knows, Judy is going to be retiring on March 1st, and the comments have been how stress-free she looks these days.
Glowing.
We attributed that to the NyQuil, that she wants to make sure that.
Self-medicating.
So we thought with that, and we've got a vacancy in our sanitarium position that we're currently recruiting for, makes some sense to look and do some outreach with some of the other communities, see if there's any possibility to do any cooperative services. We thought it made sense to talk with South Milwaukee, so we reached out to South Milwaukee And we talked with our counterparts there, the administrator, the health officer, and we were provided with some information that they currently have between 3 communities, Cudahy, St. Francis, and South Milwaukee, a cooperative agreement, and I've included that in your packets, that provides environmental health services, or environmental services. Judy doesn't like me to say health services. So environmental services are basically the facility rentals that we do. If you have dog bite type investigations, hoarding type investigations, beach testing, we may have noise complaints, those kinds of things are the environmental services that are handled with the sanitarian. The 3 communities I mentioned have had, and I don't know how many years it is, but a multi-year arrangement where they have a cooperative agreement that they share the services of 1.5 positions to perform that service, and it's worked well and efficiently for those communities. The thought process would be that perhaps we look at that as a first step to see if we can work out the details of that and possibly bring that back to the council. There's going to be a discussion if the council moves us forward next week with our Board of Health to go into that in some detail. Hot off the press today, there were some pretty good work that the 2 departments have done to create cost allocations. So that would be the first step, which could happen relatively quickly. We again have an open position with the sanitarian. The idea would be to fill that position and have 2.5 positions that would serve the 3 communities and provide some flexibility at this point. The second part of this would be a little bit more intensive review of the health operations, and primarily it was thought best to focus that discussion between South Milwaukee and Oak Creek at this point, and then potentially bring on the other 2 communities. Much like we did with dispatch operations, too many people at the table makes the agreements kind of tough to work out. Thought that the 2 communities had a lot in similar, and we probably have the best synergy between those 2 communities, and if we can bring the other communities on, that would make sense. So that would be the process to try to review and see whether that makes sense from a service standpoint and from a cost standpoint. So there's a lot to, probably a lot of work. We think we could take care of it through the rest of the year. Our Board of Health looked at this. They had some questions about, autonomy, and I think that's always a natural question when you do this, but I think their recommendation is to proceed with, to the council, is to proceed with looking and seeing whether this makes sense for the city. So we think, again, relatively a month, 6 weeks, we could probably have something back in potentially for the environmental services, and then before the end of the year, the health services. And I'm sure Judy will have some more.
Yeah, just before Judy addresses us, this is just a motion to investigate these.
That is
It's
correct.
not a motion to say we're, full speed ahead.
Not at all. The details have to be obviously considered and how it would be operated.
Judy?
Well, actually, Jerry presented it very well. This is just a request to look into this. It makes perfect sense to look at the environmental health program. They have an existing consortium going on. It's been successful for many years. We've taken a look at it. It's doable for us as well, and we'd like to look into it further.
And we do have the South Milwaukee, are you health director, is that your title? Right, you can come up.
Thank you. I'm Jackie Ovey. I'm the Public Health Administrator for the City of South Milwaukee. We've had the Environmental Health Consortium with Cudahy and St. Francis since 2002. We established that program. At the time, the state offered grants to become agents for the state for the licensing and inspections of restaurants and retail establishments. So we took advantage of that and formed a consortium. There was a municipal contribution that each of the communities put in for human health hazards, ordinance enforcement, a variety of different things over the years, including the bed bugs that we're dealing with now. We have several issues that we've had in South Milwaukee with the EPA Superfund site that we've had. So there's been a lot that we've learned about environmental issues, and we've done a variety of like air quality monitoring in various communities. And so it's been a really good working relationship for us. It's been something we have the local experience, and we have what the state did for us, and nothing replaces that local inspection, having that service local.
So do you see this as just an expansion of a service, an agreement with the 3 municipalities you mentioned, and just maybe adding a 4th one?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, and that would help us, I mean, it would be efficiency and capacity building.
Okay.
So.
Questions from the council?
I got a comment.
Alderman Verhaelen.
First of all, I believe that Oak Creek took advantage of the same type of grant money in 2003, because that's when we hired our sanitarian as well. And I don't know if we were sharing with Franklin at that time or whatever, but that was Mayor Bollander's theory, I think, that we could get some of the money in return with working from Franklin. But as far as shared sanitarian services, I have no problem with that. But the rest of it, I would hope that moving forward, that this is given a lot of thought, and we put the proper people in charge of it, meaning our respective health department heads, so we don't jump into something that involves the health and welfare of everybody in our city, as well as Cudahy, St. Francis, and South Milwaukee. So if we move forward with the rest of it, I want to make sure the job is done right before we decide to go on anything. And I think a good time to really present this, if there's meetings and stuff to take place over the summer months and fall as well, would be probably next fall when we get to budget time. So if we do decide to go in this direction, we can decide what to do at budget time.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Any other comments? Alderman Kirkowski?
As a member of the Board of Health, we brought this up most recently at the last meeting. And it is a very complicated, to me, it's a very complicated issue, because we've got potentially 3 cities that are already involved in a consortium, and then adding Oak Creek. I mean, we talked about little things like, well, not little things, big things, like the fact that South Milwaukee's health department, their budget's freestanding, and they're all self-funded, and ours isn't. Fees are different. We'd have to come up with something that's workable. So it's just listening to Judy and Ann and the comments from the healthcare professionals that are on the Board of Health, that we intend, if approved, to take baby steps to make sure that this is done the right way the first time, and we don't jump to conclusions and stuff, because I wasn't involved in the whole central dispatch with St. Francis, but I can envision that this is going to be very time consuming, because it's such a complicated, to me, program and departments that we have. So I think it's worthwhile going forward and checking it out and see if we can make this work.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Anything on this side? No other comments? Motion on 7.
Kirkowski make a motion to authorize staff to investigate cooperative environmental and health services review with neighboring communities.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call?
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich. Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Thank you to both of the health leaders for both cities. I appreciate your input. Item 8A is an ordinance it's ordinance number 2788. It fixes the salary ranges, salary, wages, and allowances for non-union general management personnel and other city offices and positions for the year 2016. And Becky.
Yes, good evening. The Personnel Committee met and we reconsidered the request, presentation from the police chief as far as increasing the wages of police management. However, the Personnel Committee reviewed the recommended wage increases, and we are recommending the same ordinance as presented to the council on December 15th, which is a wage increase of 1.25% to be effective on January 1st, 2016 for all full-time non-represented staff. And this also includes a 2% increase for the police department management staff. And the Personnel Committee is committed to continuing to review and analyzing the police department's request, but in conjunction with other staffing needs, the strategic plan, and the available funding.
So that request will be viewed as part of a larger view of the entire pay structure for everyone?
Correct.
Okay, good. Questions? Alderman Toman?
In the, thanks Becky for that outline, that was accurate. The council's seen this one before, and we know about the discussion we had with the police chief last time. Moving forward, we want, there's some things you can do in committee that are efficient, you can move along, that are smaller issues or medium issues. This is a big issue, because it could have impact for the rest of the city, other management, department heads. There's a request by the police chief that's tentatively on the table here for more personnel at the patrol level. We haven't added officers for quite a few years. There's a lot of issues that we have to deal with. There's also an issue on the table about reorganizing some of his upper staff command. So to take, we wanted to move forward on this so we could get these salaries in place, but you should know, the rest of the council should know that the committee was open to this further discussion, but by full council and the mayor. We want everybody at the table, because this is a big issue, and it could change a lot of things in the city. So
Understood.
to do it by committee is not, in my opinion, is not efficient. That's about all I have to
Okay.
say.
Other questions or comments? All right, motion on 8A.
I want to, one other thing.
Go ahead, and
before
then
I-
Alderman Guzekowski.
Do we have are we going to set a timetable on how we're going to get this done, or how this is going to proceed?
City Administrator.
Yes, that's discussion we've had at some of the core team meetings, and I've got a plan to bring this forward along with the strategic planning effort. So I would have liked to have already brought that to you in terms of time frame, but probably next month. So it's relatively short term. We've talked about what makes sense for us to do this and bring this forward, and we'll wrap this in with some of those other larger discussions would make sense.
That timeline makes sense for you, Becky?
Yes.
Okay.
I have
Go ahead.
a question, Steve. Do people anticipate that this is going to be something that's going to be pretty much not a done deal, but going in the direction we hope to go by budget time again in fall, or is it going to carry on longer than that?
It really depends where and I think this is where the committee looked at. There's going to be a lot of input from all of the council members on this, and it depends on what that discussion is and where that ends up. And it was really hard to predict where that's going to be. I think Alderman Toman identified that all of the committee members seemed to be open to the request, did not disagree with some of the information that was provided. They saw it in the context of the larger organization and other needs that are out there, and how do you do that? And they felt that that was a discussion that needed not only the input of the entire council, but part of the community as part of that discussion. So depending on how fast you all want to move this part of it relative to the rest of it is kind of the answer to that. It's going to be dependent on where you want to take it collectively.
Yeah, I understand, but the reason I asked the question, Jerry, is whenever you look at restructuring any department and you're looking at possibly different titles for different employees, and you're looking at different wage structures and everything else, I would hope that if we do decide to go in a different direction with chain of command and different job descriptions and whatnot, different pay ranges, that it would kind of be something, at least a rough draft of what we're looking at by budget time, so we can figure out where the funds are going to come for any changes and whatnot.
Yeah, just to respond to that, I mean, that's a good point. Part of the discussion was that it's difficult to do these things as a one-off
Right.
without a pay and classification
Right.
system. I think the city has a history of where it had done that, and then it had to do a pay and classification system to get things back in line. So there was, that was
why I
a
asked the
big part of
question.
the discussion, yeah.
Alderman Guzekowski. Alderman Toman.
The biggest impact here, Mark, to answer your question, is going to be added personnel. Because as soon as, especially with our protectives, I would say, if you add 3 or 4 officers in the PD, We know Tom, our fire chief, has already justified probably additions in his department with personnel too. Those are gonna be the big ticket items. It's not gonna be the raises we're talking about. Those are gonna be the big ticket items when you put 3 or 4 extra police officers or 3 or 4 extra firefighters on. That's gonna be the bigger issue.
And I think that's why it's a good idea to bring in the whole council, because that's
Exactly.
a big decision for the city to make. Turn your mic on. Please.
That'll be for in the next month or so, you thought?
Yeah, I'm going to try to schedule a work session, a special work session that basically starts to look at the strategic plan, lays that out. The council provides some direction on terms of what that strategic plan will look like. We're looking to put an RFP out for somebody to conduct us through that. We think that that's likely going to be university person, somebody like that. We want to make sure that we're addressing the strategic needs that staff and the council has identified, to get that input after we've had the RFP out. We have somebody in front of you and we say, hey, did you think about this? Too late. We need to do that up front. So we thought that would be a good thing. We can bring in staffing levels. We can bring in infrastructure. We talked about mass transit. There's a number of things that we're going to try to do, and not to isolate the request in terms of the people and the structure in light of all the other needs that are out there. So it all has to kind of be part of the stew.
Thank you.
All right, motion on 8A.
Someone will make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2788, fixing the salary ranges, salary, wages, and allowances for non-union, general, management personnel, and other city offices and positions for the year 2016. Word full-time should be in there too, somewhere.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski. Bekavich. Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
All right, item 8B is a consideration of a motion to confirm the mayor's appointment of Ann Barberena, Deputy Health Office, as the interim health officer effective March 2nd, 2016, and adopt ordinance number 2791 and amend section 4 of ordinance number 2788 relating to the salary for the interim community public health officer. Becky or Jerry?
I can do this.
Jerry?
The Personnel Committee considered this earlier this evening and made a recommendation to the council that they concur in the mayor's appointment of Ann Barberena as the Deputy Health Officer through 12/31/2016, and that also that we hire up to 2 part-time public health nurses to fill the vacancy that Ann would create within the budget that's out there. We have had discussion with the state in terms of this interim position, and the state is concurred in this, did not want it to be indefinite. We think that it kind of goes along with the review that we would have with health services, so we would hope that we would have a direction. Either we would be filling the position and hiring someone in the position, or looking at the cooperative arrangements with the other communities during that period of time. I think that's...
Jerry, mention on,
Alderman Gale.
sorry, Ann's qualifications, I think it's important.
Yeah, one of the issues that we have, we are a level 3 health department, and under the requirements of the state, a level 3 health department requires someone who has a master's degree. Ann does not have one and is not looking to obtain that, so this is in fact an interim position as opposed to a longer-term position. So if we weren't able to come to a cooperative agreement with the other communities, then we would be out towards the end of the year recruiting for this position and filling it. So that's one option, and that's why we thought it's a good time to look at those cooperative arrangements when you have that vacancy and the vacancy in the sanitarian position.
And having worked with Ann on a number of initiatives, I think it's a great choice to serve in that role. Any other questions? Alderman Kirkowski?
No, I was going to.
Make the motion, go ahead. Alderman Gale?
Personnel Committee recommendation had a end date of December 31st of 2016, so that's part of the Personnel Committee recommendation. It's not on the recommendation.
Just add that to your motion. Good,
Yeah,
good.
that was added
All right.
today.
Very well.
Kirkowski make a motion to confirm the mayor's appointment of Ann Barberina, Deputy Health Office, as interim health officer effective March 2nd, 2016 until December 31st, 2016, and adopt ordinance number 2791, amending section 4 of ordinance number 2788 relating to the salary for the interim community public health officer.
Motion is seconded. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich. Aye. Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Item 9 is a discussion or consideration of ordinance number 2789. It amends ordinance number 2779, fixing the salary ranges, salary, wages, and allowances for part-time personnel and other city offices and positions for the year 2016. Becky.
This is a revised ordinance that was previously approved. However, the Personnel Committee recommends approval of this revised ordinance from their January 19th meeting. All the revisions were for police department part-time employees. The court liaison position was missing from the ordinance, and there was a typo in the evidence technician pay range, as well as the mechanic 2 starting salary. Those were the only 3 changes.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Alderman Bekavich?
Just one, and it really goes to Ted. The laborers for streets, having a much less range than a laborer for forestry, parks, and regular recycling. What's the difference in duties?
Yeah, come up to the mic. Up to the mic, please. Thank you.
The one is a recycling attendant, and basically they work in the recycling yard. The forestry ones are dealing with chippers and chainsaws and stuff like that, so it's actually a little bit more skilled position.
Okay, and then what about just a regular street laborer above? For
The streets people come in at I believe it's 10:50, and actually as they work each year they work, we give them an additional quarter an hour. So there is a range, and
what are their duties? Are they driving plow trucks or dump trucks?
oh, absolutely not. No, they're flagging. They may be working on the tar kettle crew, things like that.
Okay, just wanted to get it in my head.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Other questions? Motion.
So I want to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2789, amending ordinance number 2779, fixing the salary ranges, salary, wages, and allowances for part-time personnel and other city offices and positions for the year 2016.
Kirkowski will second.
Kirkowski seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 10 is a motion to approve the updated investment policy as recommended by the Finance Committee. Bridget.
Oh, good evening. Excuse me. Every year, the city treasurer and myself review the investment policy, bring forward any changes that we may have to the finance committee. Over 2015, I believe the finance committee reviewed the investment policy 3 times. In that time period, we were updating things such as language for clarification. So there was language within how securities are defined using the word instrumentalities. So we had to put that into the policy. We also both now have deputies, so we needed to update the language to include those individuals in the policy, as well as working through with the city clerk as to who's which backup and when we're not here and how that functions through the policy. We also really focused on clarification. We came across a few items with reporting with some of our advisors that we needed to clarify in our policy, which they have to sign off on, what we need from them each month in our reports. So those are the types of items that you have detailed in the memo from me that went to the Finance Committee. Are there any specific questions on that?
Questions from the council? See none. If none, motion on 10.
Gail moved to approve the updated investment policy as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Guzekowski will second.
Guzekowski seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman. Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Item 11 is a consideration of resolution number 11679-020216. It would rescind resolution number 11515-072114 and restate public depositories for the city of Oak Creek. Bridget.
This is another annual item that is reviewed. We have to every year publish this resolution that lists places where we could place city funds. So we are required to look at their statements every year, assess the safety of these entities. We have asked this year to add Ellers Investment Partners to the resolution. This is a potential vendor for the city to work with in the next year or so. Barb and I have been talking with this individual for a while. We have not had the time to bring contracts and go through that with the finance committee yet. That is on the table in the next few months. So to not have to bring a new resolution to you again in another 2 months, we're asking that this be added in now. By adding this vendor in as an option, it does not mean that we can work with them without having a contract approved by the council. It is just not having to amend that resolution.
Thank you. Questions? Motion.
Gail will move to approve resolution 11679-020216, rescinding resolution 11515-072114, and restating public depositories for the city of Oak Creek.
Guzekowski will second.
Guzekowski seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Toman. Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich. Aye. Verhaelen.
Aye.
We're going to jump past 12. We'll bring it back after item 16. Item 13 is a motion to consider the fire department's move to applicant status for accreditation. Fire chief is here. Give us a brief overview. And some of his staff.
I'll start, Michael, finish off. A couple years back, roughly, council approved us to apply and seek accreditation status in the fire department. Currently, there's only about 200 or so fire departments in the world that are accredited. This is a worldwide happening. We are happy to say that we've completed the phase called registry as a registered agency, and that's a lot of finding, gathering, creating our strategic plan, standards it covers, and we're ready to move to the next step, which is the applicant agency. Again, this is about a 1.5 year process to go, and then once we finish this applicant agency, we go in front of the accreditation board to officially be accredited. Last year, the North Shore and Tulsa was accredited, along with Milwaukee County is West Dallas is another one in Milwaukee County. I'm waiting for Mike so that
He's right there.
Oh,
Coming up. Come on up, Mike.
to detail the applicant status, because he's what's our accreditation
Expert.
management, or they said don't put the fire chief in charge of this because he doesn't have enough time. So gave to Mike, who doesn't have enough time but makes time.
Far from an expert. Mike Kresick, Fire Department. I'll be serving as the accreditation manager for the department during this process. About 2.5 years ago, we came in front of the council and asked for approval to go to registered agency status. We had evaluated over the course of those 2.5 years what accreditation requires and the benefits to our organization if we were to pursue it all the way through. During that time, we learned a lot about our organization, the good and the bad. And we felt that accreditation serves a purpose for the community as well as the department. It will make us a better department. It will make us a department that looks to the community for input on the services it should provide. At this point, we're asking to move to the next step in the process, which is applicant agency. With the applicant agency process, we now begin to formalize our documentation to be reviewed by the accrediting body. We will be assigned a mentor through the accrediting agency. This mentor is an experienced peer assessor that has run an accreditation process at their own department, generally another accreditation manager or somebody that's gone up to the chief rank. We'll also be given technical support through the accrediting body in the form of a SharePoint site and guidance through their use of documentation and calendaring to keep us on task. We've established a timeline. When you go to applicant agency status, it's an 18-month window. Their expectation is in that 18 months, you will go to the next step, which is candidate agency. We have identified roughly August of 2017 as our date to go before the accrediting body to receive accreditation. So at that timetable, we anticipate that our documentation would need to be complete and final by March of 2017. We feel by going to applicant agency status at this point, it gives us a good amount of time, a good amount of lead time to prepare that documentation, make sure it's right, and be ready to go in front of the accrediting body. Can I answer any questions on this process?
For the public, what is the biggest value of being an accredited department?
There's multiple values to going through accreditation. It's a rigorous process that measures every aspect of your organization against standards such as NFPA standards, industry best practices, federal guidelines, state and local guidelines. This process will allow us to measure ourselves as an organization to see how we compare against high-performing fire departments. It will allow us to gauge the services we provide to the community. How well are we providing them? What are the timeframes for us to provide those services? It will allow us to take a look at a variety of internal programs and gauge it against community expectations. The needs of the community, both based on risk and what they expect of the fire department, will guide us for our program development. It will create a sense of transparency in the fire department. Our records, our times, they're all open to view. They're evaluated by peer assessors, and we can publicize where we are on the performance scale.
I think in an era of open and honest government, and especially the work for fire and police, I think that's a good thing. So,
Absolutely.
appreciate the effort so far. Questions from the council?
Yeah, and just to add to why part of else why we're here tonight is this for us to go to applicant agency runs about $6,000, and we have a line item in the We Energies fund that we're just letting you know that's where we're going to use the money to pay for this.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion.
Questions?
Oh, sorry.
Just wanted to make a comment in terms of observing, kind of the rigorous review that the fire department has done. Tom and Mike have touched base with me along this process. It's been a very good process because you really have to, the department feels that it's a good department, but I think one of the real values of this is the outside good housekeeping stamp of approval so that, again, high-performing outside departments are looking at that. And oftentimes, whether it's insurance that we're working through or we're looking at this, we thought we had the policies. You go to try to locate them, and you say, boy, we thought we had them. And so this is a real value of the process, and I think it's been a rigorous process that we've gone through. As we said when we started this, it does not obligate the city. If we need extra rigs or anything else like that, that's not part of it, but it identifies if there are shortcomings from, again, a credible agency where improvements can be made. So I think that's very valuable from that standpoint. And Mike and Tom and the whole department have worked very hard on this. It sounds like it's just a paper show, but it's a very rigorous review, and they've put a lot of work and time and effort into this.
Yeah, I think it's worth the investment. If no other questions, motion.
Kirkowski will make a motion that the council approve the move to applicant status for the fire department to continue to move toward accreditation.
Guzekowski, a second.
I had a second from Guzekowski. Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich. Aye. Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mike. All right, moving on to item 14 under Community Development. It's a consideration of resolution number 11680-020216, approving a certified survey map for the properties at 8380, 8400, and 8432 South 27th Street in the 2nd District. Doug.
Thank you. A version of this map was previously reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission and Common Council in November of 2015. Now, based on subsequent discussions with the landowner, there was some concern about some of the language on the map and the depiction of the second lot. I have that up there right now, such that on other discussions, the lot in the northeast corner is now labeled as an outlot. And the discussion was, if it were to be described as a parcel, we would have required dedication of the extension of Orchard Lane. Since the development plans have not been solidified for that parcel as of yet, and that there might be some modifications to that roadway alignment, it was felt that the designation of this parcel as an outlot would safeguard the city in that any future development on that would have to come back with a new land division, which would replace that outlot, the parcel designation, at which time the right-of-way would be designated. So that is the only thing that's changing. And to refresh your memory, Lot 1 is the parcel that is being purchased and developed for Villa Healthcare, skilled nursing facility. Outlot 1 would remain for future development. And Plan Commission has recommended that the CSM be approved subject to the conditions, which do include the payment of all outstanding deferred assessments prior to recording of them.
Thank you, Doug. Questions? Motion.
Gavich will make a motion to adopt resolution number 11680020216, approving a certified survey map for the properties at 8380, 8400, 8432 South 27th Street.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
We'll come back to it.
Gale.
Aye.
Under engineering, item 15 is a consideration of resolution number 11678-020216, accepting the workmanship and authorizing final payment to professional asbestos removal and survey services, also known as PARS, PARSS, for the hazardous materials abatement project involving the former city buildings at 8620 and 8640 South Howell Avenue and 240 East Putes Road, project number 15002A in the 3rd District. City Engineer Mike Simmons is here.
This is the hazardous material abatement of the buildings that were that have since been demolished. Was a necessary first step before demolition could take place. PARS was awarded the contract back in September of last year. Completed the work. There was one change order due to investigations that found more asbestos in some of the walls and some of the cabinet areas, which required fairly extensive removal of the cabinets and some of the interior walls of the building. Resulted in about 6 more days of work for their 4 to 5 man crew.
Current state of that project is it's completed, the building's down. Looks like the school district has begun the infrastructure for their new building.
Yes, our demolition contractor has moved off site. The site is entirely in the hands of the school district's contractor at this point.
Excellent. Questions? Motion.
Verhaelen makes a motion to adopt resolution number 11678-020216, accepting a workmanship and authorizing final payment final payment to professional asbestos removal and survey services for the hazardous materials abatement project involving the former City Hall buildings at 8620 and 8640 South Howell Avenue and 240 East Putes Road, project number 15002A.
Gavich seconds.
Alderman Bekavich seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman. Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And item 16 is a motion to enter, is consideration of a motion to enter into an agreement with Traffic Analysis and Design, Inc. for the lump sum of $84,470 to complete a traffic impact analysis for the West Drexel Avenue corridor. It's in the 1st and 2nd districts. Mike.
This is consideration of entering into agreement for a traffic impact analysis for the rapidly developing Drexel Avenue corridor. Staff has looked at this and discussed and basically come to the realization that the corridor needs to be analyzed from a big picture aspect due to all the interest and developments of the various properties lining that corridor. And really the conclusion is that there's no other way to do this comprehensively The alternate is doing it bits and pieces as developments come along, and in the end, you don't have a system that works well as a whole. So with that in mind, we got in touch with Traffic Impact and Analysis and Design, and met with the DOT and scoped out what this traffic impact analysis, this TIA, should entail. Based on that, we got a proposal from Traffic Impact and Design Analysis and Design, and basically we analyzed their costs versus some of the other work that they've done in the region, and the prices look to be competitive, and I think that this is our recommendation, that we go along with this submittal. This is based on the work that they've done in the area, especially locally. They've worked on recently they worked on the TIA for Oakview Business Park, for Drexel Town Square, the signal warrant analysis at 10th and Drexel. They are accredited with the DOT for conducting TIAs. We've got a good track record working with them, and they have a good working relationship with the DOT. So it's integrally, it's a good team, and we think that we can get this work done fairly expeditiously. That's fairly critical because of how quickly things are moving in this corridor.
Jerry?
Couple things here. I think Mike did a good job in terms of the background here. We do have development interest all the way along this corridor, basically from 27th Street to Howell Avenue, so we really want to make sure we're out in front of that. I think the discussion we had several weeks ago with a proposed HSI development at Pennsylvania and Drexel showed the interest that the community has in traffic issues and the importance of being out in front of things so that traffic flow moves. And we do have interest all along the corridor. Right now, I think we've reported before, and we've had in our budget dollars for review of signalization at 10th and Drexel. We think that there's probably going to be some significant suggestions beyond that, and we want to make sure that we have a plan that we can point to when we're reviewing individual development proposals and make sure that they are put into a comprehensive report. Mike mentioned this, but I want to emphasize this. Doug, Mike, Brian from our team worked very well. We had a large group from the Department of Transportation who offered to help us in the scoping process. We don't do this oftentimes on a big scale like this. Clearly, the Department of Transportation does this across the state, has expertise in it, so they helped us scope out this project. Everything from Drexel Avenue to the interchange at Drexel is going to be reviewed, so we make sure that we can any of the development interests that we have with the appropriate roadway designs and improvements that are out there. So I would agree that this is really important for us to be out in front of this, and this is a good time for us, I think, to do this work.
And I'm sure Alderman Bakavich will echo this, but I know a lot of people are talking about that 10th Street crossing there because of the Quick Trip new destination spot there. So sooner we can get it done, the sooner we can understand what we're talking about. I'll go to Alderman Bakavich, then I'll go to you, Mr. Degner.
I do agree. I mean, everybody's screaming at 10th and Drexel that we didn't anticipate what was going on there with the Quick Trip. But honestly, I'm glad to see that the whole corridor is being looked at from 27th Street on down to Howell, because that's really not the only issue of contention in the second district. Given that we put in the off-ramp, traffic has increased exponentially at 13th Street. We have some homeowners that cannot really exit and enter their property the way they are accustomed to because of the increased traffic on 13th Street. We need that looked at. And Mike's absolutely right. We can't piecemeal this together. Again, it's just a tremendous statement for the city of Oak Creek that we got that interchange in. The success of the property we are currently sitting on is directly hinged to that interchange. It wouldn't trade it for anything. But going forward, we do have to be very conscious of the traffic that's going on. 10th Street right now is the biggest one that's in the crosshairs. It's a tough intersection to get through, some excessive speed going on there, and it'll be much appreciated when that gets in motion.
Mr. Degner.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. It's ironic, isn't it, that we only consider vehicles as important. Note here on this attachment here that data collection down about next to the end, Rawson Avenue with the I-94 southbound ramps. Notice that we're concerned about vehicles, but not pedestrian or foot traffic or disabled traffic. Because if you will, I just testified against or for sidewalks on this development for CBRF at that triangular right across the street. In other words, the Department of Transportation has installed a sidewalk on the side of the bridge going across the freeway. And they have labeled on the ground a marking showing where that will lead across this so-called busy intersection. But what happens on the other side? Nothing! Nobody cares about walkers along Rawson Avenue on the other side. Nobody cares about walkers around Pennsylvania Avenue. Nobody cares. I object to this complete dismissal of sidewalks. I can give you a lot of other for instances, but we'll let go at that.
Thank you, Mr. Degner. Alderman Kirkowski.
Excuse me. There's I don't think there's going to be any opposition to this because we've all agreed that the traffic on Drexel's gotten, it's become very busy. This is not part of the study, but for everyone's information, I've had a number of complaints about traffic that is on Drexel Avenue east of Howell that I know this study is not going to take into account. However, and talking with Chief Edwards earlier, they are out there proactively trying to deal with traffic. They've cited one of the complaints on Drexel east of Howell is truck traffic, and they're using Drexel Avenue instead of Rawson because it's just probably convenient, and they're heading into South Milwaukee. He did indicate they've issued some warnings to some trucks, and they've even cited a truck for going down Drexel. So I'm confident and hopeful that whatever we get out of this study is going to somewhat help with the issues that are east of Howell on Drexel, because obviously the traffic isn't all going to go left or right when they get to Howell. They're going to keep going straight. So I think this is a good idea. Thank you.
Alderman Toman.
That covered part of my question, but I was going to ask Mike if you can draw any conclusions from, traffic going east on Drexel from this study. We can be able to, or do you have to extend the study to actual, because Jerry had mentioned the HSI thing.
Yes, this study is going to evaluate a total of 17 intersections along that corridor and adjacent to. So the Howell and Drexel intersection is going to be looked at again, renewed, existing conditions, and projections for 2017 and ultimate build out 2027 estimated. So there will be a hard look at that intersection. There will be traffic counts. There will be traffic movement analyzed. So we may not get the full picture of everything east of, but we will get a good idea based on what they're seeing at that intersection on basically all the movements through that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gale.
Excuse me, Mike and Jerry, can you just, for the audience sake, explain quickly why we can award this rather than RFP it?
Yep. This is a professional service contract, and the city has the ability to award as opposed to a bid process. As Mike explained, this particular firm has worked on, I think, 3 different studies, and particularly at the Drexel Town Square, the Oakview Business Park, and has worked for a number of the other developers along the corridor, so has familiarity with it, which makes sense. They're also a preferred vendor for the Department of Transportation, so they meet all of the state requirements. So we think that based on their knowledge of what's happening in the corridor already, that gives them a head start. We can get this done faster, and it's efficient for us to be able to do this. In terms of the follow-up to Alderman Toman's question, specifically, we will be able to take some of the traffic counts. We asked this question from the HSI proposal and things east and see what impact that has on travel. I think we had heard from some of the residents, the time it takes to be able to travel west and get onto the 94. That'll be part of the study. We'll take those projected projects that we know of and land that's vacant and look at the potentials there, and that'll be part of the intersection counts and potential movements. I think we're looking at a 10-year time frame, Mike, for this.
2027 is ultimate,
2017
yes.
to 2027. You get much further than that, and you're guessing a little bit. So we're trying to do it within that. You're guessing anyway, but they're at least pretty good guesses in a 10-year time frame.
Alderman Guzikowski.
I just want to point out here that the traffic study is going to also be helpful in determining whether or not maybe sidewalks are needed, Mr. Degner. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to learn in this area, and it'll help us with projection throughout the city.
And just on that sidewalks thing, I understand Mr. Degner's point. I'm all for sidewalks, but I think in the last 5 years, we've added more feet of sidewalk on major streets than the history of this city, north and south, east and west. So we're aware of it. We want people to be able to move easily around. The reason we do traffic studies is so we can make people safer in their cars and when they're walking. So
Just for the council and for Mr. Degner, Doug Seymour and I have had extensive discussion about creating the Oak Leaf Trail and making sure that there's designation on the north side of Drexel Avenue all the way from 27th to Howell. That's part of the long-range planning we have. And it's far easier for us when we're looking at an individual development, such as the one we had today, to show how that fits into a comprehensive plan. Because oftentimes, otherwise, we'll say, boy, it doesn't connect to this side or that side. Why should I have to put that in? And we can point to an overall comprehensive plan and how that's going to happen and why those are required as part of those approval processes. So not appropriate for a TIA, certainly appropriate for consideration and as part of the review process.
any other questions?
I've got one.
Go ahead, Alderman Verhaelen.
When this study is completed, is it going to affect any of the improvements that are probably already on the books for Drexel on 27th Street? Or are they going to have to be readdressed?
That's a potential.
As they're going to be readdressed, or it's going to fit into stuff that's already proposed?
The intersection of Drexel and 27th Street is going to be looked at again with this study. So, this could be, things as minor as, timing of signals. Part of this study is going to be trying to get the signals interconnected, interlinked, so that they're working in concert with each other to move traffic better. I guess potentially it could result in ultimate build out of extension of turn lanes, but number of lanes, not so likely.
All right, any other questions? If not, a motion on 16.
Bukavich will make a motion to enter into an agreement with Traffic Analysts and Design, Inc. for the lump sum of $84,470 to complete a traffic impact analysis for West Drexel Avenue corridor. Kirkowski will second.
Kirkowski seconds, roll call.
Alderman Bekavich. Aye. Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Delayed response. Okay, good. All right, back to 12 is a motion to approve the 2015 vendor summary report in the amount of $256,322.73, and 2016 vendor summary report in the amount of $562,933.31 for a combined total of $819,316.04.
Can I just bring to your attention on the memo,
Certainly.
number 8 and number 9, the dollar amounts got swapped. So all of the other information is correct. However, the $7,295 payment is for professional asbestos removal, not professional service industries.
Note that they were swapped, 8 and 9. Okay. Questions?
I've got a question.
Alderman Verhaelen?
The agreement with Wispark on the topsoil for the 16,000, I think it was 16,600. Was that something that was done internally, or was it a trade type thing plus cash on one of the other developments we had, or how was it worked out? Because I'd like to know what, being familiar with the topsoil business, because we've dealt in topsoil for a long time. I just wanted to know, approximate yardage that was moved and approximate cost per yard and stuff. So I want to make sure we got a good deal on this stuff.
Yeah, I had a question on that too, and I talked with Sue Winnen here late in the day, and it's not topsoil, it was crushed stone that was processed at the site as they raised the building on the Peter Cooper site. So they had, at one time, they had quite a mountain of crushed stone that they had sold off and used in various capacities. We ended up buying the remainder of the stone, used some of that in the North Lake Vista, the Bluff project on the site immediately, the bluff top adjacent to the Peter Cooper site, and then purchased the remainder, and it is stockpiled on that site now for future use.
No estimate on yardage. What was there?
Let's see here. I'm just reviewing what Sue had sent me. 4165 tons, so 4,165 tons, $4 a ton.
All right.
Good.
Okay. Just to reflect on the vendor summary report that it should be crushed aggregate instead of topsoil.
Noted.
Yep.
Anything else? Motion on 12?
Gail moves to approve the vendor summary report in the amount of $256,322.73, 2015, and the 2016 vendor summary report in the amount of $562,993.31 for a combined total $819,316.04.
Guzekowski, will second.
Guzekowski seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Moving to licensing. Alderman Kirkowski.
The License Committee met on January 27, 2016, and the minutes are attached. Recommendations are as follows. Item 17, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to Rochelle Minley, 5556 South Buckhorn Avenue, Cudahy.
Gail seconds.
Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
18.
Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to Mark Stefani, 6830 Ryan Drive, Racine.
Gail seconds.
Gale seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
And 19.
19, following items were received after the License Committee met. Tentative recommendations are as follows. Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to the following 7 individuals listed on the agenda. Favorable background reports were received.
Gail seconds.
Just a note, 4 of the licenses are for new businesses and 3 are for existing businesses, so nice mix. Gale seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Kirkowski will make a motion to adjourn.
Guzekowski, will second.
Guzekowski seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Bekavich.
Aye.
Verhaelen. Tillman. Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Thank you for watching. We will see you next Tuesday. Plan Commission.